My name is James Turner, and one thing that I think is important about me that you guys should know is that I'm optimistic. I like to see the positive of everything and look on the bright side, because if you focus on the negative, then that's what you tend to get. The kind of student that I am, my strength is I like to talk, and I tend to talk with passion, so I think I'm very helpful in driving discussion. Some things I could work on is I'm not very organized. I can procrastinate, and I tend to get distracted very easily. So I could definitely try and knock down the distractions and be more diligent in my work. My major is elementary education because I love children. They tend to respond to me very well, and I believe that it is important to invest in the students because they are our future. And we want to make sure that we give them opportunities to have the brightest future because they are the brightest kids. Every kid has potential, and they're all stars to me. So we want to make sure that we harness on that potential and make sure that they have a bright future ahead of them. The kind of community that I grew up in was a suburban area in between two cities, one city being big, one city being small. My neighborhood had a mix of races. We had black and white. We also had a small portion of Hispanics. Most of us were American, but those Hispanics were majority were Mexicans. Families tend to have blue-collar jobs, working at factories, warehouses, grocery markets, Walmarts, with the exception of a few parents who work for the state or were teachers. The places that I've traveled in the U.S., I've never been outside the U.S., and the places I've traveled in the U.S. were Waco, Texas, Brookfield, Wisconsin, all over Georgia. I've been to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Busch Gardens, and all those things. Most of those were some visiting family, and most of it was I worked for Chick-fil-A, and I was a trainer for helping to open up new stores and training those new employees. And what I learned about in myself by going to those different areas is that there's a lot more out there than what there is in my own city or in my home state in North Carolina. There's a lot more culture, a lot of things to experience out there. If I could go anywhere outside the U.S., it would be Spain because I love the Spanish culture. Yo hablo solo poquito español, but I want to learn more. I want to get immersed in that, the festivities, the food, all of that. I just want to really get into that. The type of schools that I attended growing up, my elementary school, wasn't very developed. We didn't have any sports. There was a good mix of race and different SES classes. We did have an art program, a technology program, and a Spanish program, so that was really neat. The middle school I went to was on the lake, so you got a lot of funds coming from the parents that were lawyers, that were accountants, that were doctors, and all that. So it was very developed. The programs were awesome. Resources were very plentiful. My high school was a big mix of SES classes. You had low class, middle class, and high class. It's when I really got immersed into my own culture, into the black culture, because there was a lot more black students than there were in my middle school where there was a handful of black students. So that was really nice. I think I fit better in my high school than I did my middle school, but elementary school is probably my favorite because of my favorite teacher, Miss Atwater, who was awesome. She was energetic, she was caring, and she had passion, and she treated everybody the same, no matter where you're from, what you had. She thought everybody had potential, and she wanted the students to achieve that potential, and I thought that was great. I thought that was awesome. What do I believe to be the essential purpose of education? I believe the essential purpose of education is to provide a knowledge base that will create successful citizens for our society. That is the basic and simple function that I believe education serves. Reason being is to make sure that the children of tomorrow will run an efficient and sustainable society when the adults of today are gone. Do I believe the education system is perfect? No. Do I believe it's even optimal? No. But that's where the readings come in. There's a lot of things in our education system today that we tend to overlook and sacrifice. And these things are very important. They're healthy, and they're ultimately necessary to really create that culture, a good culture for our students. Like in the first reading, Omelas, everybody sacrificed that one kid just so that everybody else could have good. And I believe in small ways we do that in education just so that we can move forward. We're sacrificing arts and sciences to focus on sciences and math and things like that because that's what we think is good for our education. But we really need to make sure that we are creating awareness in the sense of the truth of what happens around us and down to each individual student inside. And there's a lot of things that we got to make sure we're focusing on, not just the sciences and all that. Make sure that every kid is enriched to the max.